Silence. It hangs heavy in the air, thick and suffocating. This is the silence of an abandoned prison. The footsteps of guards no longer echo on the cold, hard floors. Only the wind dares to break the silence, whistling through broken windows and rustling through forgotten files. Stories of despair, of violence, of madness. We venture now into the shadows, seeking to uncover the history and the hauntings that make these abandoned prisons the most terrifying destinations in the world. Each footstep in these desolate halls echoes with the weight of countless tragedies. The very air is thick with sorrow, a palpable reminder of the suffering endured within these walls. Visitors speak of disembodied voices whispering in their ears, cold spots that defy explanation, and shadowy figures lurking at the edge of their vision. Are these merely tricks of the mind, fueled by the unsettling atmosphere? Or are they glimpses into a world beyond our own? From the imposing Eastern State Penitentiary to the isolated terror of Goli Otok, we will explore the stories that refuse to be silenced by time. Join us if you dare, but be warned, the past has a way of catching up to us all. In the heart of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a monument to solitude and despair casts a long shadow. Eastern State Penitentiary, once the most expensive prison in the world, stands as a testament to a bygone era of punishment. Completed in 1829, its imposing Gothic architecture was intended to inspire both awe and fear. Its founders believed that true rehabilitation could only be achieved through complete isolation. Inmates were kept in solitary confinement, confined to their cells for 23 hours a day. The prolonged isolation drove many inmates to madness, their sanity slowly eroding within the cold, unforgiving walls of Eastern State. Life within the walls of Eastern State was one of unrelenting hardship. Prisoners lived in a state of perpetual silence, forbidden from speaking or even looking at one another. The only human contact they had was with the guards, who were instructed to treat them with cold indifference. The psychological toll of such extreme isolation was devastating. Prisoners suffered from hallucinations, paranoia, and suicidal thoughts. Even today, visitors to Eastern State Penitentiary report feeling a sense of unease and oppression within the prison's walls. Eastern State Penitentiary closed in 1971, but its troubled past haunts its corridors. It stands as a chilling reminder of a failed experiment in criminal justice. Paranormal investigators and visitors are drawn by its grim history and hauntings. Many claim to have experienced unexplained phenomena, from voices to apparitions. One well-documented occurrence is the Silky Ghost. Some believe it to be a former nurse, others an inmate driven mad by solitary confinement. But the Silky Ghost is not alone. Footsteps echo through the empty cell blocks. Disembodied laughter chills the air, and whispers seem to emanate from the very walls themselves. Visitors have reported feeling sudden drops in temperature, experiencing a sense of being watched, and even being touched by unseen hands. Some stories are tragic, reflecting the pain and despair experienced by the inmates. Others are downright malevolent, hinting at a darkness that lingers long after the prison's closure. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there is no denying the eerie atmosphere that pervades Eastern State Penitentiary. On the windswept shores of the Baltic Sea, just outside the medieval walls of Tallinn, Estonia, stands a monolith of stone and suffering. Patarei Prison, a name that sends shivers down the spines of those who know its history, is not a place for the faint of heart. Built in 1840 as a sea fortress by Tsar Nicholas I, Patarei was never intended to house human beings. Its thick walls and imposing structure were designed to withstand enemy attacks, not to contain the human spirit, but history, as it often does, had other plans. Under both Nazi and Soviet rule, Petare became a symbol of oppression, its name synonymous with brutality, torture, and death. After World War II, as the Iron Curtain descended across Europe, Petare fell under Soviet control. Petare earned its grim reputation as one of the most brutal prisons in the Soviet Union. The conditions were inhumane. Cells designed for a handful were crammed with dozens. Disease was rampant, and the cold air chilled prisoners to their cores. The exact number of those who perished remains unknown. Petare prison closed in 2002, ending its reign of terror. The cries of the tortured and whispers of the dead still echo through its empty corridors. Today, Petare is a chilling museum, dedicated to those who suffered and died within its walls. Visitors report strange and unsettling phenomena within Petare's walls. Unexplained cold spots, disembodied voices, and shadowy figures are common paranormal encounters. In the heart of San Francisco Bay, shrouded in mist and legend, sits Alcatraz Island, a place that has captivated the imaginations of millions for nearly a century. Once a military fortification, later a federal penitentiary, Alcatraz has taken on an almost mythic status, becoming synonymous with isolation, despair, and the indomitability of the human spirit. From 1934 to 1963, Alcatraz served as America's most notorious maximum security prison. Its isolated location, surrounded by the frigid waters of San Francisco Bay, made escape seem impossible. Alcatraz housed some of the most infamous criminals in American history: Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, and Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz, to name a few. The island itself seemed to embody the spirit of confinement. Life on the Rock, as it was known, was one of strict routine and constant surveillance. Inmates were assigned numbers, stripped of their identities, and subjected to a rigid schedule of work, meals, and solitary confinement. Despite the seemingly insurmountable odds, there were those who dared to dream of escape. Over the years, there were 14 documented attempts involving 36 inmates. While most were quickly apprehended or killed, the fate of 3 men, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin, remains a mystery to this day. Whether they perished in the frigid waters of the bay or successfully reached freedom remains one of the most enduring mysteries of Alcatraz. After 29 years of operation, Alcatraz closed its doors in 1963. The cost of maintaining the prison, coupled with its aging infrastructure and the negative publicity generated by the 1962 escape, led to its demise. Today, Alcatraz is a National Park Service site, attracting millions of visitors each year who come to experience its history and, some say, its hauntings. Over the years, there have been countless reports of paranormal activity on Alcatraz. Visitors and park rangers alike have reported hearing disembodied voices, footsteps echoing through the empty corridors, and the sounds of cell doors slamming shut. Others report hearing the sounds of music, said to be the ghostly banjo playing of Al Capone, echoing through the deserted prison yard. The stories of Alcatraz's hauntings are as varied as they are chilling. Some believe that the spirits of former inmates, forever bound to the site of their suffering, still roam the cell blocks. Others speculate that the residual energy of the island's violent and tragic past has seeped into the very walls, creating a vortex of paranormal activity. Whatever the explanation, there is no denying the eerie atmosphere that pervades Alcatraz. Even on the sunniest of days, a palpable sense of unease hangs in the air, a reminder that the island's past is never far behind. As the sun sets on Alcatraz, casting long shadows across the deserted cell blocks, one can't help but wonder what secrets and stories still linger within these walls. In the heart of Dublin Island stands a stark reminder of the nation's turbulent past. Kilmainham Jail is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of oppression. Built in 1796, it was intended to be a modern, humane prison. However, the reality proved far different. From petty criminals to political prisoners, Kilmainham Jail bore witness to the full spectrum of human suffering. Kilmainham Jail played a pivotal role in Ireland's struggle for independence. After the 1916 Easter Rising, leaders were imprisoned and executed within its walls. The executions in the stone-cold courtyard galvanized the movement for independence. Prominent figures like Patrick Pearse, James Connolly, and Constance Markievicz were imprisoned here. Their imprisonment transformed Kilmainham Jail into a symbol of sacrifice and martyrdom. The walls absorbed the anguish and defiance of those held captive. Kilmainham Jail closed its doors in 1924, its role in Ireland's turbulent history seemingly at an end. But the memories of those who lived, suffered, and died within its walls refused to be silenced. The prison stood abandoned for decades, a decaying reminder of a painful past. In the 1960s, volunteers began restoring Kilmainham Jail, recognizing its historical significance. Their efforts transformed the dilapidated prison into a powerful museum. Today, Kilmainham Jail stands as one of Ireland's most important historical sites. For many, it is a place where the veil between the living and the dead seems to thin. The sound of children laughing and playing is often reported in the area that once housed women and children. Some believe these are the spirits of the children imprisoned at Kilmainham. Others speak of encountering Joseph Plunkett, a leader of the 1916 Easter Rising. He appears as a tall, distinguished figure, often accompanied by profound sadness. Kilmainham Jail is a place where the weight of the past is ever present. In the azure expanse of the Adriatic Sea, where Croatian islands rise like emerald jewels, lies a place shrouded in darkness. Goli Otok, or Barren Island, is a chilling reminder of a dark chapter in Yugoslavian history. From 1949 to 1989, it served as a political prison for enemies of the state. The island's isolation and brutal conditions made it a place of unspeakable suffering. Unlike other infamous prisons, Goli Otok's terror lay in its simplicity. The buildings were stark and functional, designed to confine and dehumanize. The true horror was in the systematic brutality within its walls. The island mirrored the harshness of the prison regime. The windswept landscape offered no respite from the elements. The sea, a symbol of freedom, served as a cruel reminder of isolation. Section 2, the labor of despair. Life on Goli Otok was one of relentless toil and psychological torment. Prisoners were subjected to a grueling regime of forced labor, often in dangerous conditions. The work was designed to break their spirit. Impossible quotas and brutal punishment were common. Guards ruled with an iron fist, meting out beatings and humiliation. Psychological torture left the deepest scars. Relentless interrogations forced false confessions. They were pitted against one another, eroding trust and camaraderie. Section 3, haunted by silence. After the fall of communism in Yugoslavia, the truth about Goli Otok slowly began to emerge. The prison was closed in 1989, and the island, once a forbidden zone, was gradually opened up to the outside world. Today, Goli Otok stands as a stark reminder of the human capacity for cruelty. The silence that hangs over the island is deafening, broken only by the sound of the wind and waves. There are no official records of how many died, but estimates range from hundreds to thousands. Survivors were reluctant to speak, but some eventually shared their stories. Section 1. The weight of memory. The silence of these abandoned prisons is deceptive. It is not the silence of peace, but of stories untold, of suffering endured. Each scratch, each rust-eaten bar whispers a tale of hardship and resilience. These prisons, though abandoned, are far from empty. They are haunted by memories, lingering like ghosts in the shadows. We've encountered darkness, but also glimmers of hope and courage. These prisons remind us of the fragility of freedom and the importance of safeguarding human rights. Section 2. In the shadow of the past. The shadows of these abandoned prisons stretch far beyond their physical boundaries. They reach across time and space, touching the lives of those who were imprisoned within their walls. The trauma of incarceration can leave lasting scars on individuals and communities. As we move forward, it is our duty to remember those who suffered in these places of confinement. We must honor their memory by fighting for justice, equality, and human rights for all. They remind us of the fragility of freedom and the enduring power of the human spirit.